The first time I met Cashin Ward, I knew he was going to be a problem. I was 8, practicing my backhand in our backyard under my dad's watchful eye. Sweat plastered my hair to my forehead, my arm ached, but I kept swinging, determined to impress him. Then a voice drifted over the hedge. "Your swing's too stiff. You'll never land a proper shot like that." I turned, racket still in hand, and there he was, a boy my age, standing on the balcony of the mansion next door, leaning over the railing like a prince surveying his kingdom. He had storm-gray eyes, already sharp even at 8, and hair that somehow fell perfectly into place despite the summer heat. I scowled. "And you'd know." He grinned. "Yeah, I've had lessons." That grin, it was the beginning of everything. I should have ignored him, but my blood's always run hot. So I shot back, "Then come down here and prove it." To my horror, he did. He marched straight into our yard like he owned it, borrowed one of my spare rackets, and beat me 5 games in a row. I hated him instantly. From that day forward, we were rivals. At school, on the tennis court, even at neighborhood birthday parties where kids should have been eating cake and playing tag. We turned everything into a competition. Who could hold their breath longer in the pool? Who could recite multiplication tables faster? Who got more pieces of candy from the piñata? And every time I lost, Cashin's smug smirk burned in my memory like gasoline on fire. By 13, our rivalry wasn't just a private war. Everyone knew about it. Soren and Cashin. Teachers sighed when assigning group projects. "Try not to kill each other. You two should be grateful," coaches muttered after practice. "You make each other better." Maybe they were right. I did push harder because of him. But that didn't make me like it. When I came out at 15, I thought, stupidly, that it might change things. Maybe he'd back off. Maybe he'd finally stop watching me like I was a challenge he had to conquer. Instead, it gave him new lines to throw. "Careful, Vale," he'd mutter across the net. "Don't break a nail with that backhand." "Nice shirt. Your mom finally let you raid her closet?" Always with that infuriating smirk, like he was daring me to snap. And I always did. Jealous? I'd snap back. "You wish you looked this good. At least I have a personality, Ward. Yours is as flat as the court." We became a spectacle. Our insults were almost as legendary as our matches. By 16, we were locked into a cycle: compete, clash, insult, repeat. Every tournament, every exam, every stupid community gala where our parents paraded us around like trophies, it always circled back to Cashin and me. Neighbors whispered about it. Friends joked, "You two fight like a married couple." I laughed it off, but the joke left an aftertaste I couldn't explain. Cashin never relented. He was relentless on the court, precise in academics, and irritatingly charming at every social event. And I refused to let him have the last word. If he came at me with arrogance, I matched it with fire. Neither of us backed down. That's what made it burn. Now we're 18, standing at the edge of something bigger than our petty wars. The National Youth Tennis Team. 1 slot left. Both of us want it. No, both of us need it. For me, it's about proof. Proof that I'm more than the loud, fiery Vale kid with rainbow pins on his gym bag. Proof that I can carve my own path without my father's shadow. For Cashin, it's about legacy. His family's pride. His golden boy reputation. Losing to me would be unacceptable. Which is why we're here, on the ward's private court on a cool Friday night, pushing each other past exhaustion. The lamps blaze white against the navy sky. My muscles ache, sweat stings my eyes, but I grip my racket tighter. Across the net, Cashin twirls as like it's an extension of his hand, calm, infuriatingly composed. He calls out, "Cute serve, Vale." Shame it wouldn't scare a 5-year-old. My teeth grind. He always knows how to dig under my skin. "Funny," I shoot back. "Didn't realize you were coaching 5-year-olds now. Explains why you play like one." He smirks, strolling closer to the net. "Relax, princess. I'm just trying to keep you humble." There it is. Princess. He knows I hate it. The stupid nickname he gave me after I came out. I march right up to the net, chest heaving, eyes blazing into his. "Humble? Please. The only thing keeping me grounded is reminding myself I'm nothing like you." A twitch flickers in his jaw before he masks it with another smirk. "And yet you're always chasing me. Admit it, Vale. I live in your head rent-free." I laugh sharp. "You're confusing yourself with your reflection again." The air crackles between us. Neither of us moves. Our breath mingles across the net. His storm-gray eyes bore into mine, unflinching. For one terrifying second, I wonder, what would happen if I leaned closer? But I don't. Because I'm not the one who breaks first. Cashin smirks, steps back, and says, "See you at tryouts, Vale. Don't choke." He strolls off the court, casual as ever, leaving me burning. I hate him. God, I hate him. So why do I feel like I'm already bracing for the next time he looks at me like that? The burn in my muscles should have been enough to quiet me down after training, but it wasn't. I was still fuming hours later, sweat dried, hair damp from the shower, stretched out on my bed with a cold water bottle pressed against my forehead. Cashin Ward had that effect on me. The bastard could stand there, silent, and somehow he'd get under my skin more than a dozen trash talkers ever could. Today it wasn't just the usual remarks. It was the smirk. That damned smirk when he thought he'd found an opening in my game, when he thought he'd gotten to me. He had no idea how much I wanted to smash my racket into the court just to wipe it off his face. I turned my head and caught sight of the tennis bag in the corner of my room. My father had left it there after he came in earlier, saying only, "Good match, but Ward's footwork was sharper today. You'll have to compensate." Compensate. Right. As if I hadn't already spent hours perfecting every stroke. As if I hadn't pushed myself until my lungs burned. But in my father's eyes, if Cashin existed, then I had to do better. Always better. I grabbed my phone and checked the school group chat. Sure enough, someone had posted a blurry video from today's scrimmage. Me lunging for a cross-court shot, Cashin blocking it with maddening ease. The comments underneath were the same as always. Vale and Ward, finals preview for nationals? Bet Ward takes it. He's ice cold. Nah, Vale's got more fire. I should have ignored it. Instead, I found myself typing back, fingers slamming against the glass. Fire burns hotter than ice. Watch me prove it. I tossed the phone aside and lay back, staring at the ceiling. The rivalry had turned into a spectacle now, not just between us, but for everyone else. Friends, teachers, even strangers loved to pit us against each other like we were gladiators. Maybe that should have made me proud. Instead, it made me feel like I was standing on a stage where every word, every move was scripted. And Cashin was my co-star whether I liked it or not. The next day at school, it was worse. Nationals are only 3 weeks away, our coach announced in homeroom, and every head turned. Half toward me, half toward Cashin, who sat 2 rows back, looking like he'd been carved out of arrogance itself. The whispers started as soon as the bell rang. Vale's serve is stronger. Ward doesn't choke under pressure. Imagine if one of them doesn't make it. I slammed my locker harder than I meant to, ignoring the stares. Of course Cashin strolled by right then, cool as ever, bag slung over his shoulder like he didn't care that the entire world compared us. "Don't break the locker, Vale," he said smoothly. "It's not its fault your wound too tight." I turned slowly, glaring at him. "Careful, Ward. Someday that tongue of yours is going to get you into trouble." He smiled, wolfish, infuriating. Someday isn't today. The worst part, a few people nearby actually laughed, like it was entertainment. I clenched my fists. He always knew how to perform, how to get the audience on his side. But I wasn't about to give him the satisfaction of seeing me crack. Not here, not now. That night, though, the cracks showed. Our fathers had arranged extra training. Separately, I'd thought. But when I showed up at the practice court, racket in hand, there he was already stretching, wearing that same smug expression. "Don't tell me they double-booked us," I muttered, dropping my bag onto the bench. "Looks like it," he said. "Unless you're too scared to practice with me." "Scared?" I snorted, stepping onto the court. "You wish." The first half hour was brutal. No coach, no audience, just us. Rallies stretched long and punishing, each of us refusing to give an inch. Every shot felt like a dare. Every grunt, every footstep echoed too loudly in the empty court. And the banter didn't stop. "Your backhand's slowing." "Funny, I was about to say the same about you." "Keep talking, Vale. Maybe it'll distract me enough to let you win." "Keep smirking, Ward. I'll wipe it off sooner or later." The tension grew heavier with each exchange. Not just competitive tension. Something else. Something I didn't want to name. The ball sailed high, I sprinted forward, and suddenly collision. My chest slammed into his, racket slipping from my hand. He grabbed my arm instinctively to steady me, and for a split second, we were too close. His breath brushed my cheek. My heart thundered against my ribs. And Cashin just stared. No smirk, no taunt. Just those storm-gray eyes locked on mine. I froze, every nerve screaming. Then, as if he realized what he was doing, his mouth curled again. "Careful, Vale. Fall for me and you'll hit the ground hard." The words snapped the moment like glass. I jerked free, shoving past him. You're delusional. I grabbed my bag and stormed out, not caring that sweat dripped down my temples, not caring that I'd left my favorite grip tape behind. Better that than staying another second under those eyes. But later, in the silence of my room, the fury melted into something else. I sat on the edge of my bed, hair damp from another shower, staring at my hands. They were still shaking, not from the workout, not from anger. From that moment. Why did I freeze? Why couldn't I just snap back like always? Because for one insane heartbeat, I'd wanted him closer. I buried my face in my palms, groaning. No. No, no, no. Cashin Ward was my rival, my tormentor, the thorn in my side since we were kids. He was the reason I stayed up late practicing, the reason my father's criticisms dug deeper, the reason half the school watched me like a hawk. But if I was honest, really honest, he was also the reason my blood ran hot, the reason I never backed down, the reason I felt alive every time we clashed. And that terrified me more than losing ever could. Because what do you do when the person you hate most is the one you can't stop thinking about? The closer nationals crept, the more suffocating it felt. Every hallway, every locker, every practice, people whispered about me and Cashin. About who would get the slot, who was sharper, who would crack. They didn't talk about my serve or my forehand. They talked about us. Two boys from the richest families in town. Next-door neighbors. Lifelong rivals. It was a narrative they loved more than our actual games. I wanted to tune it out. But I couldn't. Because Cashin Ward was always there, like an echo in my life I couldn't shut off. The week after our near collision at his family's practice court, Coach decided to torture me. Vale Ward, you're paired for doubles this week. Nationals requires teamwork, even from singles players. Consider this training. Teamwork. With Cashin. Right. He shot me a smirk as we walked to the baseline together. Try not to drag me down, Vale. I gritted my teeth. Don't trip over your own ego, Ward. The rallies started crisp, efficient. And I hated how natural it felt. He read my shots before I even made them, adjusted angles like we shared one mind. When I smashed a serve, he was there to close the volley. When he drew our opponents wide, I cut across to finish the point. We won every game, and Coach looked smug. See? Together you're unstoppable. But I wasn't celebrating. Because the whole time, I felt his presence like a constant hum beneath my skin. The sound of his breath when he called shots, the brush of his hand when we switched sides, the way his voice dipped lower when he said my name. I told myself it was irritation. Just irritation. Later that day, a local news crew came for a neighborhood prodigy feature. Of course, they shoved us side by side under the gym lights. Smile, the reporter chirped. Pretend you like each other. I forced a grin. Cashin didn't need to pretend. He looked relaxed, charming, camera-ready. So tell us, the reporter asked, what's it like growing up next to your biggest rival? I went first. It's exhausting, I said, earning polite laughter. But it pushes me. Makes me work harder. Cashin leaned slightly toward the mic. Don't let him fool you. He's been chasing me since we were kids. Everyone laughed again, like it was harmless fun. But my smile sharpened. Funny. I remember beating you at 12, 15, and 17. Should I list more years? For the briefest second, his expression cracked. Just a flicker. Then the smooth mask slid back on. I lived off that flicker for the rest of the day. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I sat at my desk, journal open, pen hovering. The page stared back, empty, until I scrawled. He wants me to chase him. But maybe he's the one doing the chasing. My chest tightened. I slammed the book shut and shoved it under a pile of textbooks. The next few days blurred, practice, school, interviews, all with Cashin orbiting me like some unbearable satellite. I told myself to ignore it. But then came Thursday. We were the last ones at the gym after evening drills. Everyone else had left. The lights were dim, echoing off the high ceilings. I thought I'd get the court to myself for extra reps. But Cashin was already there, serving like he owned the place. Of course, I muttered, tossing my bag down. He glanced over, all casual arrogance. Couldn't stay away, huh? I could ask you the same. Maybe we both needed the extra work. He smirked. Or maybe you just wanted to see me. I stalked onto the court. In your dreams. The match that followed wasn't about points. It was about punishment. We went at each other like enemies in a war. Every slam was sharper, every sprint harder. And then it wasn't just the shots, it was the words. You're reckless, he snapped after I nailed a risky cross-court. You're boring, I shot back. Admit it, you live for playing me. Please. You're not that special. The insults grew sharper, closer to the bone. My chest ached, not from running, but from holding back everything I wanted to yell. Finally, I charged the net, volleying a winner, and he stormed forward too, meeting me at the post. We were chest to chest, both heaving, sweat dripping. Say it, he demanded, gray eyes burning. Say what? That you need me. I shoved him hard against the post. I don't need anyone, least of all you. But I didn't step back. Neither did he. The air between us crackled, too hot, too close. And then, he kissed me. Hard. Sudden. Like he'd been holding it back for years. My brain screamed no, but my body betrayed me. My fists curled in his shirt, pulling him closer. It wasn't gentle. It was teeth, fire, years of rage spilling into one desperate clash. When I finally tore away, gasping, my heart hammered so loud I could barely hear. What the hell was that? My voice cracked. Cashin's smirk wavered, but he forced it back. Proof. Of what? That you don't hate me as much as you pretend. I stumbled back, shaking my head. You're insane. I grabbed my bag and stormed out, ignoring the way my lips still tingled. That night I couldn't write. Couldn't think. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying it again and again. The heat of it. The wrongness of it. The terrifying way my body hadn't wanted to stop. Cashin Ward was supposed to be my enemy. My rival. The one person I shouldn't fall for. So why did the memory of his mouth on mine make my pulse race? Why did it feel like the beginning of something I wasn't ready to name? I didn't see him the next morning. I made sure of it. Took the back stairwell instead of the main one. Ate breakfast in the far corner of the cafeteria. Ducked out of the locker room before his voice could cut through the crowd. For the first time in years, I bent my life around avoiding Cashin Ward. But avoiding him didn't mean I could erase the memory. It was there in the brush of my teeth, in the taste of mint that reminded me too much of him. It was in the heat that crawled up my neck every time my lips tingled, phantom and real all at once. I lay awake replaying it, my mind begging me to stop while my body betrayed me with every hitch of breath. It wasn't supposed to happen. It shouldn't have happened. I told myself it was some twisted power play, another weapon Cashin used to get under my skin. But then I remembered the way his hands had trembled just slightly when he grabbed me. The way his smirk faltered when he pulled away, almost like he was afraid. I shoved the thought down so deep it ached. Practice became hell. Coach still paired us in doubles, of course. The first session after that night, I arrived late, hoping Cashin would already be busy. He was. Standing at the baseline, racket spinning in his hand like he owned the court. He didn't look surprised when I walked in. He just smirked, tilted his head like we shared some private joke. I looked anywhere but at him. We played stiff and mechanical. Our timing was off, communication shot. At one point he called, "Mine." But I lunged anyway, nearly colliding with him mid-swing. The ball went wide. "Still can't trust me?" he murmured when we switched sides. For the first time in years, Cashin Ward and I didn't speak. Not the sharp quips we traded in practice. Not the subtle digs at the dinner table when our parents dragged us into the same room. Not even the wordless glares that usually carried more heat than fire. Nothing. After I told him to figure his shit out and walked away, I thought I'd feel relieved. Like I'd finally broken the chain that kept dragging me back to him. Instead, I felt like I was holding my breath every second of every day. The silence between us wasn't quiet. On the court, it felt like thunder, the air charged and dangerous. When our coach paired us for doubles drills, we moved with brutal efficiency, our bodies in sync even while our eyes refused to meet. At home, when our families gathered on Fridays, the silence was worse. Cashin would lounge across from me at the dinner table, pretending to listen to our parents' chatter, pretending he didn't notice me stabbing my food like it had personally wronged me. But I could feel him watching. Always. And I hated how much I wanted him to break first. He started slipping before I did. Little things. Serving too hard at practice, as if daring me to miss. Shoving past me in the hall when there was plenty of space. Dropping comments loud enough for me to hear, but not directed at me. And the stares. God, the stares. If I so much as lingered with Rowan or any of the other guys after practice, Cashin's jaw would tighten. If I laughed at something, he'd slam his locker a little too hard. If someone clapped me on the back, his glare could have cut glass. He didn't say anything. Not yet. But jealousy simmered off him like heat waves. And a dark, secret part of me liked it. The snap came one night after practice. I was heading out, gym bag slung over my shoulder, earbuds in, when a hand grabbed my arm and yanked me into the shadows beneath the bleachers. Ward, what the hell? Cashin's face was tight, eyes blazing. What the fuck is going on with you and Rowan? I blinked. Are you serious? You're always with him. Laughing, talking. He's my teammate. I ripped my arm free, anger sparking. Unlike you, he knows how to act like one. His expression twisted, and before I could move, he shoved me against the wall, caging me in with his arms. You're mine, Soren. His voice was low, shaking. Don't forget that. The words slammed into me, hot and brutal. For a second, all I could do was stare, my pulse crashing in my ears. Then I shoved him back, fury and something far more dangerous burning in my chest. I'm not yours. Not when you're too much of a coward to admit what this even is. His face went pale. For once, no snark. No smirk. Just raw, cracked silence. But he didn't let me go. And that scared me more than anything. After that night, the silence shattered. The hookups came back with a vengeance, but they weren't the same. They were rougher, hungrier, tinged with something desperate. He dragged me into empty classrooms, kissed me like he was trying to erase every trace of anyone else from my mouth. His hands would grip too hard, his voice rasping things like mine. Only mine. I should have stopped it. Should have walked away for good. But the truth was, I wanted it just as much as he did. Maybe more. Even if it scared me. The breaking point came after our doubles qualifier. We'd scraped out a win, the gym still echoing with the roar of the crowd. Adrenaline buzzed under my skin, sweat dripping down my temples. Cashin cornered me in the tunnel, slamming me against the wall, his mouth crashing into mine before I could speak. The kiss was frantic, messy, desperate. I shoved him back, breathless. Stop. You can't keep doing this. I can't stop. His voice cracked, hands trembling on my shoulders. You drive me insane, Soren. The thought of anyone else touching you, it makes me want to break something. My chest ached. Then stop pretending I don't matter. His gray eyes burned into mine. You matter too much. The world tilted. Then say it, I whispered. Say what this is. For a long moment, he just stared, every muscle in his body taut. Then finally the mask shattered. It's not nothing, he said, voice raw. It's never been nothing. I want you. I've always wanted you. And it terrifies me. The air left my lungs in a rush. I should have walked away. Should have demanded more. Instead, I kissed him. And this time, it wasn't a fight. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was surrender. We didn't tell anyone. He wasn't ready. Maybe I wasn't either. But that night, under the weight of his confession, we made a choice. Not enemies with benefits. Not undefined. Something more. The next morning, our families paraded us into a press event, neighbors' pride on full display. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, microphones shoved in our faces. Cashin smirked like always, the picture of charm and composure. But when no one was looking, his hand brushed mine. Just once. Quick. And when our eyes met, the look he gave me said everything the world couldn't know yet. But you're mine. It had been a month since Cashin, and I stopped pretending we weren't hopelessly tethered together. A month since that night he pressed me against the wall and said he wanted me. Not as his rival, not as his secret obsession, but as his. At first, it was everything I thought I wanted. He'd slip into my room after midnight, his body warm and solid against mine as we tried to keep quiet, muffling laughter into kisses. Sometimes he'd tug me into the back seat of his car after practice, the air fogging as we burned through every second before someone noticed we were gone. We were careful. Too careful. To the world, nothing had changed. On court, we still snarled at each other. In class, we still traded barbed comments like blades. To our friends, we were the same bitter rivals. But in the dark, he held me like he never wanted to let go. For a while, the secrecy felt thrilling. Like the danger was its own fuel. Every glance across the net during practice, every brush of shoulders in the locker room, it all carried a spark only we could read. But as weeks stretched into a month, the thrill curdled into something heavier. Because I'd already spent years fighting to be myself, to stop hiding who I was. And now here I was again, the boy I loved only loving me in the shadows. The first crack came at practice. Stone had always been one of my closest friends, the guy who knew when to shut up and when to throw a joke to ease the pressure. That day, he clapped a hand on my shoulder, laughing at something dumb about my serve. It was nothing, just Stone being Stone. But from across the court, I felt Cashin's stare like fire. His grip on the racket tightened, his jaw clenched. That night, when he climbed into my room, his kiss wasn't tender. It was desperate, bruising, as if he wanted to erase any trace of someone else's touch. "Cass," I gasped, pushing against his chest. "What the hell?" His eyes were wild. "I don't like him touching you." I froze. "Stone. He's my friend. That's all. I don't care." His voice dropped low, dangerous. "He doesn't get to put his hands on what's mine." Heat flared in my chest, sharp and furious. "What's yours? You don't get to claim me in the dark if you can't even admit you want me in the light." For a second, he looked like I'd slapped him. But instead of answering, he crushed his mouth back to mine, as if kissing me hard enough would make the words disappear. And I hated that I kissed him back. That no matter how angry I was, I still wanted him. 2 weeks before Nationals, it all came undone. We were supposed to meet behind the gym after practice, but I was already simmering, Stone's earlier words echoing in my head. "You deserve someone who'll stand beside you in the light." When Cashin appeared, his smirk was in place, the one that always meant ready to devour you. But I didn't move, didn't smile. "What's wrong?" he asked, frowning. "What's wrong?" I snapped. "I'm tired, Cass. Tired of sneaking, of lying, of being someone's dirty secret. I came out years ago so I wouldn't have to live like this again." He flinched, but his voice rose. "You think I don't want to tell the world? You think I don't dream about it every damn day? I can't just throw it out there and hope everything's fine. I'm not you, Soren. I'd lose. Then maybe you'll lose me." I cut in, my throat tight, the words trembling out of me like glass. Silence crashed between us, louder than any scream. "You don't mean that," he said, almost pleading. But I did. At least some part of me did. I turned and walked away, leaving him in the shadows. For the next 2 weeks, we didn't speak outside the necessary drills and matches. On court, our rivalry sharpened again, vicious and raw. It was like we had built something fragile and then shattered it with our own hands. Nationals, the final. The arena felt like a living thing, humming with the energy of thousands of spectators. My name and Cashin's flashed across screens, our faces blown up in impossible size. The rivalry everyone loved to obsess over had come to its pinnacle, the national final. Singles. 1 match. Winner takes everything. When we stepped onto the court, I felt my chest ache. He wouldn't look at me, and yet I felt him everywhere. The first set was agony. Rallies stretched until my lungs burned. I clawed my way point by point, somehow taking it in a tiebreaker. My chest heaved as the crowd roared, chanting my name. Cashin came back feral in the second. His serve was untouchable, his forehand brutal. He demolished me 6-2, smirking across the net like he'd just reminded me who I was dealing with. The third set was war. Every point was a knife fight. The crowd was on their feet, gasping with every swing. Deuce. Advantage. Back to deuce. My legs screamed, my chest was fire. At 6-6, it went to a tiebreaker. Match point. His serve. The rally stretched, forehand to forehand, backhand slice, volley smash. I barely scraped it back. My heart hammered in my ears. Then my shot clipped the net and died on my side. Game, set, match, Cashin Ward. The stadium erupted. Reporters stormed the court. Fans screamed, confetti cannons burst. Cashin dropped his racket, throwing his head back as he roared his victory to the sky. Me? I stood frozen, chest hollow, watching him crowned what he'd always wanted, national champion. Cameras swarmed him, mics shoved in his face. How does it feel to finally beat Soren Vale at the national level? Is this the greatest rivalry in tennis today? What fuels you two to push each other so far? Cashin smirked at first, giving the textbook answers, the golden boy champion polished for the spotlight. But then his eyes found me. Something in him cracked. "You want the truth?" he said, his voice booming through the speakers. "Everyone asks why I've been obsessed with him for years. Why no one else pushes me the way he does. Why I've never been able to let this rivalry die." The crowd hushed, cameras locking on him. "The truth is," his voice faltered, then steadied, fierce. "I've been in love with him for years." The arena exploded, gasps, screams, reporters shouting questions, flashes like lightning. Chaos. But Cashin didn't care. He stepped down from the podium, trophy still in his hand, and crossed the court until he stood right in front of me. "No more hiding, Soren," he said, voice low, raw. "Not from them. Not from me." My throat closed, my heart breaking open. The boy who had once been my rival, my tormentor, my secret, had just burned his world down in front of the nation. For me. And for the first time, I wasn't a secret.